Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm proud to bring you a continuation of an earlier episode of Brian's Drive-In Theater. So without further ado, let us go straight to Brian Walker. Greetings, Brian. How are you?
I'm well tonight, Hercules, and happy holidays to you.
And happy holidays to you as well. I'm looking forward to the new year. As you know, I plan each quarter out before it happens. And one of the things I'd like to bring back is something that I had in the very early days of our communication when I still had my original website and we just started getting to radio. It was called Sword and Sandal for the Soul. It was a look at the sword and sandal movies and the lessons about life that each of them brings to us.
I think that they're morality tales, most definitely. So I mean, yeah, they have a lot of lessons to teach us.
So I'm starting with the Mighty Sons of Hercules, which are about a dozen shows that had nothing to do with each other initially, but were tied together for a series. And the Mighty Sons of Hercules was a theme. And there are a handful of other Sons of Hercules movies that weren't part of the franchise. So I'll be incorporating them as well, and it'll take place during one of our Sword and Sandal cinema shows on YouTube.
Sounds good. I would love to participate.
Thank you. I'm greatly honored, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the women of Peplum.
Yeah, where I wanted to start tonight was with Faye Spain. Faye Spain was an actress, very popular in the 50s and did a lot of work in the 60s as well. She in terms of peplums, her lone role in a peplum is in the Reg Park peplum, Hercules and the Captive Women, and she's Queen Antonia. She's the evil queen who is essentially sacrificing her daughter, to the rocks, whatever it was that was keeping them captive. And she was a terrific actress. Had a really tough life, however, and she's profiled on the Drive-In. She has her own page. She's in one of the earlier pages too. I've been a Faye Spain fan for a long time. And if you watch her performances, whether they were in films in the 50s or even in the 70s when she was still doing some TV, um, she was a very pretty, very attractive actress, but wasn't afraid to look ugly or butch, or I mean, she would do anything for a role. She would ugly down or ugly up or whatever you want to call it. She wasn't afraid to look disheveled or mean or rough. She was not, even though she'd been a pinup, here and there with Russ Meyer, believe it or not. She didn't really see herself as a glamour girl, but she could be. I mean, given the circumstance and the clothing and whatnot. But like I said, she wasn't afraid to drastically alter her appearance to fit in with what she saw in the role. So oftentimes she would look kind of butch, in some of her roles. She's in an episode of Policewoman from the mid 1970s, and she's playing this really butch woman who is very caustic, very rough, great performance. Her last film, she's in The Godfather. The Godfather Part Two, I guess I should say. She's Mrs. Roth, Hyman Roth's wife, in the second one. And unfortunately, it's just a very small role for her. She had some addiction problems that seemed to have gotten in the way of her career. And she passed away young too. She was only, I think, 51. She had lymphatic cancer when she passed. And she had a rough early life too. She left home when she was super young, in the 1940s. Got married at 16. Wound up in Reno, Nevada, and she kind of bluffed her way into dealing blackjack for a casino in Reno. And her husband, who was also really young, was a shill in the casino. And that's how she kind of made her way, early on. And she was the breadwinner between the two of them, between herself and her first husband. and had a child with him when she was about 21, 22 years old, and got divorced right around the time the child was born. I guess they, I guess they had, she had gone her separate way. She was married three more times after that. The next two marriages were very short. She was married to an abstract painter, which sounds very, kind of hip and such, in the late 50s or early 60s. And in the mid 1960s, she married a briefly famous Italian hairdresser. He made a big splash for about a year in the mid 1960s, and that's how she met him. She met him in New York, and they got married and had kind of a whirlwind courtship, and it didn't last for whatever reason. It's very hard to find any information on all that. Because by then, by the mid 1960s, her career was kind of starting to slide. She wasn't getting film roles anymore. And she was doing more TV, but she was just doing anything she could to survive because she had a child to take care of. She had to had to bring home money, um, and just had a life. You had to support herself. And when you're faced with the reality of stuff like that, you'll take any role. You'll do anything you can in order to pay the bills. And she did. She was and she was such a good actress too. Like I said, not afraid to take risks. And although she wasn't classically trained or anything like that, she's really intense in her films. So she does a great job. And I guess it was just for her just trying to get by and trying to make ends meet. But she also turns in good performances as well. She wasn't slacking off. She was doing her level best, and it shows in her performances. And I love the one. I know it's glycerin, but when her daughter is being hauled away in Hercules and the captive women, and she's been so cold, about the just offering her daughter up for sacrifice. And at the very end of the scene, there's this glycerin tear that rolls off her cheek. She does such a really good job with it. She was a good actress. I wish she had more longevity and maybe fewer personal problems and fewer addiction issues. But what a terrific actress to check out. And like I said, she's profiled on the Drive-In Theater's website, so take a look at it. As a matter of fact, I always have whenever I can, that is, on the actor pages, if I've got access to something public domain that they've done, I will post examples of it on their pages. And on the Face Spain page, you can watch Hercules and the Captive Women, and it's actually it's a 720 DPI copy of it. It looks very good.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And unfortunately, that's one of the very few movies that she did that is public domain, that she has a sizable role in. She's also in God's Little Acre from a few years before Hercules and the Captive Women, and she has a decent role, but it's not as big as Queen Antonia. So I try to put their most prominent. If I've got a selection of public domain films for one of the actor pages, I try to pick the best one, and that may be the one that's the best copy that's available. If the copies are in such bad shape, I feel bad about even posting them because nobody's going to watch them. They're just too. The sound's bad. They're negative scratches. They're not really black and white anymore. They're just sort of light gray and medium gray. They can be really hard to watch. So I try to post the best of what this actor had to offer based on condition, quality of the film, and quality of the film. Period. Really.
And I am very happy that you're drawing attention to the women of Peplum. I don't recall seeing any book ever on the women of Peplum. And we were fortunate to have Bella Cortez, who is a woman of
Yes,
Peplum
she certainly is.
times. And I believe she spoke to you and she spoke to Nick and Michelle on their show, The Scholars from the Edge of Time. So I was very happy that we were able to at least draw attention to her movies.
And she's in one of my very favorite peplums. As a matter of fact, the Giant of Metropolis.
Yeah.
Um, I love that one. And you toward at the end of his life, I was able to chat with Gordon Mitchell a few times, who's the star of the Giant of Metropolis. What a really interesting guy. I mean, he lived four lives, in 80 years, really. Um, just a really nice person too. Uh, Sometimes you'll meet, and I'm sure this has happened to you. You'll meet somebody who you admire, and you, that meeting will let you down in some way. Perhaps they're short with you, or not very interesting, or kind of nasty. Um, some people some people are afraid of fans, or they hate them. He was the absolute opposite. He loved the resurgence and interest in his career. Um, he was all about it. He had a million ideas too. His mind was like super sharp, until the last day of his life. And he had a great co-star in Face Bay. And I think we ought to look at some of the people who popped up a lot in Peplum films, but not as the protagonist necessarily. Um, and I've said this repeatedly, but it's always the evil one. It's always the antagonist. It's way more fun to play anyway. And if you are a dedicated actor, that's the role you want, because that's where you can really get going and get emotional and go over the top a little bit. You should chew the scenery a little bit if you're the antagonist in a film.
Yeah.
The protagonist is sort of is kind of a straight man, kind of in a comedic setting, and the evil person's way more fun to play.
That whole bwahaha factor.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but I don't think I'm the only one here. Sometimes you root for the antagonist, especially if the protagonist is milk toast, or just not much fun. Yeah, I like to see actors having fun in roles. Alan Steele, I mean, we've talked about this before. He always seems like he's having a great time.
Yes, I love that about him. His
Hmm.
his enthusiasm. In Greek, enthusiasm means being possessed by a divine force. And you could always tell that he really loved the roles that he
He's
had.
got a big smile on his face. I mean, he's happy to be there.
Yeah.
It's obvious too, and it's kind of infectious as well. And just as a point, there's a YouTuber that Greg and I watch. It's a well, which it's a Disney thing, and his YouTube channel is called Paging Mr. Morrow, and he's upbeat, positive, always smiling, always has something good to say, never says anything negative. And there's something kind of refreshing about that, especially on YouTube where everything is negative. Uh, and I'm just really kind of drawn to it. So I've been watching most of his content, and he produces a lot of content. And these aren't 5 minute videos. I mean, these are like 45 minutes, an hour, sometimes 2 hours. But in what I like about his content is that he is happy. He is excited to be there. He wants to relay this information to you, and he's almost giddy about it. And like I said, that's really infectious. I love that energy, and you just don't see it much anymore.
No, you don't.
No,
But
sadly,
he's doing
nobody
a
gets excited
positive
about
thing.
anything.
Yeah, so much
People,
news now is trying to elicit outrage and
yeah, because
disappointment.
that's the only way that they can figure out how to get people to hate watch them, which is what do they want? And YouTube is all about hate watching stuff, which I think is stupid. Why
Well,
would
we're
you? I mean, isn't life miserable enough? Try to focus on something positive every once in a while. You might make your life a little better. You know what I mean?
I second that.
And well, watch a Face Pain movie. How about that? You'll be entertained by it. She is, depending on the role. I mean, like I said, she was a beautiful woman, um, but not afraid to chew on the scenery from time to. And I love actors and actresses who are bigger than life, who really go for it, who punch things up. A lot of those were B actors, but hey, that's how you get noticed. That's how you get screen time. Not to ham it up, but to do little things in the background if you're a supporting player. Like Colleen Gray, one of my favorite actresses, was in a lot of horror and sci-fi movies in the 50s, and did some like film noir. Well, actually, quite a bit of film noir. And she would be on Perry Mason, and this is later in her career. She knew exactly how to get the cameraman's attention. If she oftentimes she was the defendant, so she didn't have a whole lot of lines, you're just sitting there, between Barbara Hale and Raymond Burr, right? And he's doing all the talking, and they in the series they rarely put the defendant on the stand, so you don't have any lines. What do? So she wrings her hands whenever they do for a reaction shot. She bugs her eyes out. She, she does everything she can just to make sure that there's something going on the screen, of course,
Uh,
but to get the attention. And you don't see people doing that anymore. That's so. I mean, give us a show. Camp it up. I, I love campy stuff. So,
yeah, me too.
but it also means that actor's thinking like how can I breathe some life into this material? How can I entertain the people who are going to be watching this? And like I said, even in the background, if you can catch the camera's attention, if you can if the cameraman catches on to it and will give you a little bit of a focus, more's the better. And it makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, it definitely does. I've been toying with the idea of having us wear costumes while we're doing the show, and I loaded in one of my
Well,
Facebook
I'm
groups
getting kind of close.
how to get a sheet. Yes, how to use a sheet to make a peplum. So this way, with the use of a sheet and maybe a safety pin, you could all have peplum costumes and then get inexpensive plastic wreath.
Yeah,
And I
you,
think that
you
would enhance our show a little bit.
between a party store and the Dollar Tree, I'm sure we could probably pull it together.
Something together.
Are you familiar with an actress who was a successful actress named Jean Crane?
The name rings a bell, but I can't place her right now.
Hmm. She could have been, I think, a major star, and she was on that trajectory, for a while. And she's in Queen of the Nile, where she's Cleopatra, but very unlike the Elizabeth Taylor Cleopatra, um, who was Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra is more about excess,
Hmm.
and Jean Crane, that was not her persona, and that was not the way that Cleopatra was portrayed in Queen of the Nile. But it's kind of a Hollywood version, uh, of the story of Cleopatra. Um, and what I mean by Hollywood is that it was traditionally shot. They didn't sink a lot of money into this. And this was later in Jean Crane's career, after she was starting to um, oh gosh, I don't want to say age, but that's what happened, to a lot of careers. You
I
know,
believe Nicholas Dyack and Michelle Brittany dedicated a show to Queen of Denial. That's
mhm. It's a good movie, and
it's a movie.
she was a good actress. The thing that really got in the way of her career is that she was a married Catholic woman, and back in the day, you reproduced, and she had 7 children. So I mean that took a lot of time away from her career.
I can
Uh,
imagine.
and I mean she worked as much as she could, between kids, but that had to have gotten in the way of her career. Something similar happened to Vera Miles. Vera Miles was almost a major star, but she kept adding to her family, and that obviously it's her choice. Um, but I think it did get in the way of these careers. Should it have? No, but I think it did. Anyway, Gene Crane's a kind of an interesting figure to look into. Another actress who wasn't really afraid to take roles in different films, and she made some B movies. I don't have a page for her. But my favorite B movie of hers is, I think it's called Hot Rods to Hell. It's with Dana Andrews, and she and Dana Andrews are married, and he has no backbone at all, and they're on the road. And they're being menaced by this young gang. Um, and it's a really fun movie. It was made, I think it came out in 1967 or something like that. And it's late into her career, and well, late, really late in Dana Andrews' career as well. But it's kind of a fun movie to look at. But Queen of the Nile, I think it's definitely worth a look. It's produced well, quality performance. Jean Crane was a beautiful woman uh, as well, a good actress too.
Yeah, so many people, the life interferes with the career that they set up, and through their work, you see the brilliance that's latently there, but they don't really get the opportunity to cultivate it and to share it on a wide scale.
Well, and yeah, I mean, being lucky enough to be cast in a film, yeah, especially a main character, um, might be your once in a lifetime shot. And it age, there's so many people coming after those same parts, and age starts to play a factor whether it should or not. I mean, yeah, if you're 42 years old, you might still be able to play the protagonist or the heroine, but there are people half your age right behind you. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's sad. I think a lot of producers, especially on TV, recognized the power of older actors and actresses because of production costs. The older ones knew how to memorize lines quickly. They had better impulses. They had more skill, more experience, knew how to hit their marks. Didn't require a whole lot of takes, I should say, in order to get scenes done. And the successful um, protagonists, as they age, would often move into character roles because they knew what they were doing. Essentially, if they were hired for if they were probably hired for their looks, especially back then. But if they were able to grow in their craft, I guess I should say.
I can identify with that. Back when I had my TV show, not that my TV show made a big splash in the entertainment industry, but I had a TV show on cable for like 3 years,
Mhm.
and I did 3 seasons of television. And I learned very quickly during the first season that it was much better to have slightly older, much more reliable people than to have the younger, edgier, brilliant ones because they wouldn't show up.
Mhm.
It was always difficult filming with them. But if you had somebody who knew how to do their craft, who was flexible and showed up, they got after a while. They didn't even look for uh, edgy, brilliant younger people to fill in the roles on the show. I just relied on my stable of trusted and proven actors, and we did just fine.
It's there are many reasons to hire us, older people, but but just being able to count on somebody means a lot um, in all facets of life, but especially when you're trying to get a project done. So yeah, I completely understand. Um, are you familiar with Deborah Paget much?
That too, the name rings a bell. Maybe like the other person, I'll remember it as you're talking, but it rings a bell. Don't recall a fan.
Well, her peplum is The Last Days of Pompeii
Okay.
from the late 1950s. And she, gorgeous, very, very just beautiful woman. Um, and had started her career as a teenager and was almost instantly successful. She's very charismatic on screen, photographs very well. Like I said, just very pretty, just lovely to watch, and a good actress as well. Her career kind of died with the studio system, however. if the studio system had carried on for an additional 10 years or so, she would have been an A-list actor. Um, and some of her movies include 14 Hours. She's in Why Must I Die with Terry Moore, and that's a cheap B movie, but it's a lot of fun, and she's good in it. So is Terry Moore for that. And both of those actresses are still with us.
Oh,
Terry
wow.
Terry Moore is, I think, 96, and Deborah Paget's 92, I believe. Um, and Deborah Paget came from an acting family. Her She had two sisters who were actresses. Taya Loring, who was their oldest sister, she was in movies like B movie westerns and stuff like that in the 40s. And Frank Griffin was an actor in the 50s, and he later became a makeup person of note. He had quite a reputation as a very good makeup man. And Lisa Gay, who was Deborah Paget's probably most successful sibling in terms of acting jobs. Lisa Gay was pretty popular in the 50s and 60s and looked something like her sister. Everybody in the family is gorgeous, so I don't know. Yeah, every one of them. Taya Loring, Frank Griffin, Lisa Gay, Deborah Paget, very attractive people. I don't know what her parents looked like, but wow, But you don't usually see that. Usually, you'll see if you see like four kids out of a family, one of them might be not bad. The other three, you just don't see like everybody in the family is beautiful.
No, I'm trying to think of any example. I can't think of any.
I've got nothing, but the Griffin family, they had it. And like I said, Deborah Paget, just like us, just this far away from being, an A star. But she didn't make it because the studio system fell apart. Well, it went away, I guess I should say. All the studios fired their contract players, and then their contract players were out trying to get any kind of work that they could. Deborah Paget in the early 60s was in a couple of AIP movies, a couple of horror films as well. And then she married a wealthy um, businessman, settled in Texas, had a child with the businessman, got divorced, and this person was super wealthy. I mean, he wasn't just a millionaire. I mean, he had tons of money, and got divorced, and she hasn't worked in more than 60 years,
Wow.
and still, like I said, still with us, about 92 years old.
We've talked
And
in the past about gathering some of these folk up, and we've shared stories. You've spoken to Gordon Mitchell. I've had some conversations with Mark Forrest before he passed on.
mhm,
It took me
I remember.
years to track down Sergio Chiani, aka Alan Steele. And as soon as I found somebody who can connect me and was in the process of connecting me, he died. So if we can do something to honor them, Samson Burke, I've been looking for him. I found websites and numbers. Nobody
His
answers
web,
anything. So,
yeah, his website hasn't been updated in like 15 years or something like.
right.
And I get it. Once you get into your 90s, I mean, just basic survival, I think requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Some people seem to just be fine though. I saw some pictures of Barbara Eden earlier this fall from I Dream of Jeannie, among other things. And she was at a signing, and you'd never guess that this woman was in her mid 90s. And she was walking like to her car. There were pictures of her walking to her car, and she's unassisted. She's walking just fine, um, and looks amazing. Some people just, I don't know if she's just taking extraordinary care of herself or if it's luck. I think it's luck, really, really. I really do.
Well, I'm
But
happy for her.
oh yeah, me too. But it's just amazing that some people can, well, making it to your 90s. I think it's amazing in and of itself. but to be able to still be vital like that, that's rare too. It doesn't happen for what 99% of people.
No, alas, it doesn't.
But she does seem to get out, and I think having a purpose will keep you going too. I
Yeah, I
think
think
that's
that goes
that,
well.
I
And
think that's good for everybody. Is just having a purpose. I think it does keep you moving around, keep you going, keep you interested and involved.
she is known and loved by very many people, so that I'm sure helps as well.
And rightfully so. I mean, she's had quite a career. Um, I've seen a lot of her, television shows, a lot of her movies. She's a lot of fun. Seems to enjoy, being with her fans. Accessible, which you don't find, in a lot of actors and such. So more power to her too for going putting herself out there like that at that age. She could
And
just be sitting at home, and being
Tues, the
comfortable. But
movie that uh, introduced the I Dream of Jeannie with Tony Randall, I believe, was the person who found the lamp. But she was in
the
the
brass bottle.
yeah that inspired I Dream of Jeannie.
Hmm. It's a fun movie too. AMC used to run it like 25 years ago or something like that. And, Tony Randall, somebody else who was sort of like a B plus A minus actor there for a while. He was never the protagonist though. I mean, he was always like second banana, which actually fits his style, it fits his personality best, and he worked forever. He was always in demand. Um, and maybe that's the secret of it. Don't be the star. Be the star's best friend. You'll have a much longer career.
Well, he was in Planet of the Apes too. That's how I knew him best. And then the Odd Couple.
That was on when I was a little kid. I think it came on about 71 or something like that, and I watched it until they took it off the air. I love The Odd Couple.
Yeah, I loved it too. I watched it. I was much younger when it played. But then I discovered him in Planet of the Apes, and that's how I know him best. There's Cornelius and Galen and all the other ape roles he played.
Mm-hmm. And he's in the three Rock Hudson, Doris Day comedies from the late 50s and early 60s that are so much fun. His Pillow Talk, um, Lover Come Back, and Send Me No Flowers. Of those three, oh golly, I don't. I'm going to say that Send Me No Flowers is probably my favorite of the three, although Pillow Talk's a really close second.
Yeah, I don't remember them that much, so I'm not going to comment.
Well, I mean, and it's not Peplum either, but in Pillow Talk, Rock Hudson's a hypochondriac and he thinks he's going to die. So he tries to get his wife, Doris Day, hooked up with her next husband.
Oh,
And he has picked out Clint Walker to be her next husband. And it's cute. It's really funny. It's a very light. It's a light comedy, but all tongue in cheek. Very cute.
played a vampire hunter in some movie, Tony Randall also.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he had a TV show about vampires, and then it turned out he was really a vampire hunter of some note. And that was kind of semi-comedic, if I remember correctly.
Well, another actress who is still with us, going back to Deborah Paget, is Tina Louise.
Yes, my cousin, who's also a sometimes host on a Sword and Sandal Cinema, he's a big Tina Louise fan.
Well, and I altered her page tonight. I think I had God's Little Acre as her movie sample. It's the complete movie. But I changed it to Siege of Syracuse, which was made like a couple of years after God's Little Acre. And the copy that I have access to is in Italian, so it's not dubbed, but it's also a beautiful print. So if you're a Tina Louise fan, take a look at it. Everybody knows Tina Louise from Gilligan's Island.
Island, yeah.
She portrayed Ginger Grant, and there's been a over the years, there's been a lot of, I think, misinformation about how she felt about that role. Um, she did it for 3 years. She was under contract, and when the show was taken off the air, she decided to move on
Hmm.
and continued her career. She continued to act. She was in the first season or two of Dallas um, in the late 1970s. She didn't have a major role, but she had a recurring role, at least. Um, and there again, another person who was a very good actress, very striking looking as well, but a lot of substance in her roles. She's in the Stepford Wives. She has a great role in that, and she's very good in King of or Siege of Syracuse. That is, and Godzilla Laker. Quite honestly, she's terrific in that. She's um, having an affair with her sister's husband, and they're these poor sharecroppers. So it's hot and it's in the summer, and there's a really steamy scene in Godzilla Laker where Tina Louise and Aldo Ray, who's her sister's husband, are meeting up for one of their trysts, and for the 1950s. It's like I said, pretty steamy. Um, Stuff you didn't often see back then. Well, there was no nudity or anything like that, but still, I mean, even to allude to something like that was, against the Hays Code. Um, so I think that Siege of Syracuse is definitely worth taking a look at, though. And Tina Louise, like, a very fun actress, still with us. She will be 92 in February, as a matter of fact.
She has a daughter who's known as an environmentalist, I believe.
Caprice, yes. She was married to Tina Louise was married to Les Crane, who was a talk show host in the late 1960s, and he's the father of her daughter. Her name's Caprice Crane, I believe. And Caprice is probably, I don't know, mid to late 50s. She's a little younger than I am, but not by a great deal. And Tina Louise has lived in New York for many, many years, and has gotten involved in the community. She takes a special interest in children's education, has visited numerous public schools in the New York City area, and has done readings of certain books and things, which was, I think, a fantastic way to spend your retirement. She walked away from her career after a certain point, which I did the same thing. So well, sort of. I still work part time, but she walked away from her career and decided to do something positive and useful. I think that's awesome.
I think it's awesome too. And if you have any contact information for them?
I do not have any contact information for Deborah Paget or Tina Louise.
Okay,
I know that Tina Louise doesn't. Every once in a while, she'll pop up in an interview, but I have no contact information for her.
yeah, she'll be somebody interesting to interview because she's well known for other things, but she did two Peplum movies.
Mhm.
And she's involved with the community, and her daughter is involved with the community. So I think that'll make for a very interesting interview.
It would, and there again, I think that's awesome to even at that age, when you could just be, sipping mai tais, by on the beach, to be active and involved in your community, and to have a purpose like that. Um, I think it's essential, as long as you live, to keep you going, and to be productive.
And that's the whole point of the Peplum movies, that you have
It is, yeah,
people caring for the greater community. A lot of times
right or wrong.
they're just passing through. They're not even residents or citizens. They're just on the road passing through, but they topple tyrannies and get rid of monsters and teams of bandits and whatever the peril happens to be, and then onward to the next adventure.
And you know, if we did actually live our lives like that, imagine how much better things would be. Really, I mean, it
That'll be
would.
something to explore in the show. That's a great statement.
No, it is though. I mean, you know, but I think once upon a time people were more civic minded than they are now. But I guess starting with the Pepsi generation or the me generation in the '60s, everybody is so self focused now. They don't. There, we have a disturbing number of people in our society these days who don't really see themselves as part of a community per
No,
se.
that's unfortunate. And there's so many things to do. Like I'm not as involved with my community as I've been in the past, even the fairly recent past. But it was always good to see that there are tons of people, more so than you suspect, who give of their time and of their talent and of their energy to make things better for other people who don't even know that there are people there trying to make their lives better. And no attention is drawn to them most of the time. And before, when there were neighborhood newspapers, you find out a little bit about what they were doing. But now all the neighborhood newspapers are gone, and very few people read them online that I've been able to. Uh,
Yep, and it's all been replaced by people making I'm going to pat myself on the back posts about their latest and greatest achievements, and it's just sickening. I mean, it is. It's just like
something about
you
that.
know, the only if these people actually do anything worthwhile, which usually they don't, they want to be congratulated for it. I mean, you can do a good deed and just go on with life.
Right.
You don't need to be encouraged to do another one. And
And
that's the worst part of social media. It's just all these me, crap, and I'm just sick of it.
we're
Um,
reinforcing it in Sword and Sandal for the Soul. So that's going to be our key message.
I think it's great when the community around you will hold you up as an example for something. But uh, oh God, I mean, TikTok and Instagram and all of these, oh, I just can't stand it anymore. I mean,
I'm not even on there. I can't get into them. I'm on a lot of social media, but the only ones I'm at every day is like Facebook and YouTube. Everything else is occasional.
even that though, I mean, YouTube is as much social media as Facebook.
Yeah.
It's just owned by a different hateful conglomerate. And the stuff that I see on YouTube is disgusting for the most part. Everything is the worst, you know. Oh, or this is the worst blank, or this is the worst that. I am so sick of it. I don't. It's all negative, and there's a negative mindset in our society right now, and I think a lot of it is driven by these people who are living in their parents' basement, and their only social outlet is being hateful online. Um, I'm like I said, I'm just tired of it. But we need to. There are good things about social media, but
Yeah, sure.
we need to get away from behind the phone and actually go out and do things with
Do
people.
stuff
Yes, yeah,
with
meet
people.
other
Yes.
people in real time. Physically, face to face. You go downtown, you walk around for a while, see who you run into. I ran into a friend of mine just yesterday at the grocery store, as a matter of fact, that I hadn't seen for a while.
Yeah, that's something very important. We've had several recent shows just about that, about how if you focus on negative things, even if nothing changes for the better or for the worse, you're going to see the world in negative ways. And
And,
and
and
your
this
inner experience will be reacting to negative things. So you're going to feel negatively about it. Where
this was a very positive interaction too, and it made me feel good at when we parted. Maybe that was just him. He seems to be I don't know him that well. But when I left the university, he was still there, and he was downsized last year, sadly enough. And he's decided on a change of career, and he's like in a medical program now. He had a terminal degree. I think he had an EDD or something like that. So He's really changing, really shifting gears, here in his middle years. Um, but I walked away from the interaction, and he knows about my website, as a matter of fact. And the interaction with him like really made me feel good, and it was very positive. And I kept thinking, gosh, as a retiree, as an older person, so many things happen to you that are negative. Your community gets smaller and smaller. The people that you used to interact with have died off, which has happened. I can't tell you how many friends I've lost in the last 5 or 6 years. Like I want to say more than half of. Just they just they're gone now.
I know that's the thing about aging. Yeah, I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away from 70s. I can certainly
Well,
sympathize with what you.
and at this age, trying to make new friends, which I've been trying to do, is tough. Gosh, and I'm trying to make younger friends, uh, hoping that they don't die, like my older ones did. Um, and it's really hard. And um, have befriended a few millennials here in the last few years, and it's just they're a different animal. I like them. I get along with them okay, but it's not the same though.
The good thing about social media and media generally is um, the person I loved working with and for twice in my career I worked for her um, found me in a newspaper in a local library where they had an article about my mythology things that I do.
Hmm.
So she looked on social media and found a way to contact me. So she contacted me. And again, not that we're close and talking all the time or anything, but
Mhm.
occasionally we'll give a call or send an email or something. And that was like a very positive thing because I had positive experiences in my life during my career as a human service worker. And it's good to be able to touch that, part of my life in a very positive way.
Were you a social worker?
I wasn't a social worker. I was like more of a rehabilitation counselor. Uh,
Oh, okay.
my specialty was in creating coping and adaptive skills rehabilitation programs. They were very successful. So whereas the national average for success was like 17% in one of these programs, I was
Mhm.
in the 80s percent of people
Wow,
succeeding.
that's awesome.
And by succeeding, it means returning to work or returning to school and being
Hmm.
able to stay there for at least a year. So I was really good at it, and I learned that if you're really good at something, people will tolerate your eccentricities to a very great degree. So
My experience with that's been very different, but my career was mostly focused on higher education. What I found, and I've had numerous people repeat this back to me, so it wasn't just me, is that the more competent you were at doing something, the more crap got thrown onto you by somebody who was incompetent. And only the incompetent people would get promoted because they weren't being productive. So we needed to get them out of the way so we could get somebody in here to be productive. So instead of firing them, we would just promote them.
yeah, that's called the Peter principle, and
It sure is,
that
and
in
it applies to the places that I've worked. Let me tell
there's some
you.
places that I've worked too. You raise people to their highest incompetence, but I
Yes.
get out of those places. But toward the end, especially, like people would give me jobs just to keep me off the playing field. And um, because of my eccentricities, I had my television show at that point, so I used to wander New York with leather and swords and metal and stuff like that. And I used to talk at a lot of professional places, and these professional places used to chastise my employers because they wanted somebody in leather and swords and fur. So my employer, which was a major rehabilitation outfit, eventually told me to go. Everyone wants me to be dressed up in my
All this fetish
fur.
gear.
Yeah. So I used to go give professional talks to government agencies and organizations dressed up in fur and leather and brandishing a sword. And that ended when September 11th happened, and there were
Oh,
soldiers with no sense of humor and machine guns
mm,
stopping me every
yeah,
block because I'm
yeah.
walking around with a sword. And the cops would tell them, no, he's okay. Nope, I'd get detained. So I got tired of being detained every block. So I just left the sword at home after a while.
Mm. Um, uh, yeah, like I was saying though, it's just gotten it's really hard to meet new people. I've tried, I've done okay, but I just haven't found the same connections that I was hoping that I would find that I had. With
You're a very personable person. You're awesome to talk to. I mean, we've been talking for years, and I always look forward to talking to you. So I guess it's just a matter of time before we tap into some new people. But I understand. 'Cause in
it's
my
going to
70s,
get
I'm not meeting
worse.
very many. In my almost 70s, I'm not meeting very many new people either.
And it's sad too, because I mean, that's the getting out and knowing people and trying to do something. And you mentioned you're trying to, before we started, trying to do something in the community as much as you could. I hate to say it, but I don't see that much among the retirees that I know. Some of them I do. Most of them, most of the ones that I know just want to sit at home and not deal with any of it. You know, that's wrong. You need to be fighting them more than ever now. You have more time, for one thing.
So I'll invite you to those shows, Brian, and then we
All
can.
right.
And unfortunately, we're reaching the end of today's conversation. Thank you. It's always a pleasure and an honor to talk to you. I always have a great time and I always learn things or relearn things. And I'm looking forward to the directions the show will take in the year ahead. I know you had some excellent ideas, and I know you're working on your own show. So maybe we could bridge to your new show through what we do here.
And after 2 years of talking about it, I need to get it off the ground. So
There we
I
go.
agree.
I have perfect faith that you will, because I've been a big fan over a quarter of a century of your website and how it stayed faithful to its original concept, though it's evolved over time. So I have no doubt that not only is there a new show in you with a new concept, but also that all the stuff you've written over the years will make great coffee table books. And I really believe that. I could see the coffee table books on people's coffee tables. I can see them on people's shelves. So hopefully that'll happen too.
I hope so. It sounds great. It'll give me something to do for the next 20 years or so.
There you go.
And if you want to interact with me, right now, I'm just on Facebook. You can find me if you go to Facebook and then run a search for Brian's Drive-In Theater or Brian Walker. I should show up either way, although I have a very common name, so Brian Walker might not nail it for you initially. And you please stop by the drive-in. There's a new movie of the day every day. We have I have that is about 400 different actors profiled on the website. Some very talented people there who made some very entertaining products over the years. So check it out.
And I vouch for the website. I visited, as I said, for like a quarter of a century and over. And I remember in the early days when I first found it, when I was concerned about it not being there, I used to print out every single page and I had a loosely binder with a different division. So I don't do that anymore. But that was a fun thing to do, and I'm glad that you're still around.
Well, Hercules, it's been great to see you. Happy holidays. And I'm excited to get back with you during the new year.
Me too, and happy holidays to you as well. Give my love to Greg. And to all out there, happy holidays, joyous journeys, amazing adventures, happy new year, and we'll see you in 2026. Good night, everybody.
Good night.